And hello, everyone. How are you doing today, Bondi? Great to see all of you here. We have power right now at the Bondi headquarters in Michigan. That could change at some point. We are going to be expecting here in Michigan 50 to 60 mile per hour winds. The lakes, Lake Michigan, Lake Erie, Lake Superior, they could have waves as high as 25 to 30 feet. So get ready for that, everybody. Make sure you have, if you have a generator, have it ready to go. Make sure your phones are charged, everything, your precautions are taken, because it could be a rough 24 hours here in Michigan. But tonight, I'm glad all of you are here. Thank you for everyone watching on Substack. Thank you for everyone watching on Locals, X. Thank you on X, on Twitch, and on YouTube. We are expanding, and that I'll get to that a little later about how we are really expanding and what we're going to be doing in the new year. But for those of you who know me, you know that I worked in the mainstream legacy media. I worked in it for 25 years, from Evansville, Indiana, to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Birmingham, Alabama, Wilmington, North Carolina. I worked across the country in many local television news stations. And there's a lot going on in those stations that you don't know about. There's a lot. Some of you, I don't know if any of you are in New York City or if you are in the New York City TV market. There's a guy named Ken Rosato. He was the main morning anchor at WABC TV in New York. And he was the anchor of the #1 morning show in the country at WABC. Well, he left his job in the mainstream media just like I did. And now he has his own show, kind of like I do. And he is now spilling the dirt on what's really going on in local newsrooms. He is going and this interview that I'm going to have coming up, it's going to be really insightful. Um, Ken Rosato, he knows people at ABC News, Good Morning America. You name the celebrity, and he knows them. And in this interview, he's going to be dishing some dirt about what goes on at the local TV news level and also at the national level. He's naming names, and we're going to be getting into that with him in just a little bit. Oh, Jeff, someone just asked, do I spill the tea? I've spilled the tea as well. I've talked to you a lot about what has happened in my career in local TV news. I've told you that, and I will get into it even more. And I actually, during this interview with Ken Rosato coming up, I actually spill the tea, as they say, about what happened in some of my experiences in local TV news. I talk about how I was really not allowed to go after Governor Gretchen Whitmer or Governor Rick Snyder or Democrats or Republicans. Local TV news is no longer really about hardcore investigative journalism. That doesn't exist anymore. There are some stations that do. So I will give credit to those. There are still amazing journalists in print and in broadcast journalism, but there's not many of them left. And it's really sad. My station that I worked at, they would not let me do hardcore investigative pieces because they didn't want to upset the governor or they didn't want to upset the mayor or whatever it is like that. So yeah, exactly. I agree with you. I agree with that comment right there. So if you're watching on Substack, you're watching on Locals or X or YouTube, let me know in the comments what you're thinking, because I will also answer your questions. I will answer your questions about what you're talking about or what you want me to talk about what is really going on in local TV news, because I lived it. And I will be able to have the answers to your questions, everybody. So we'll have that coming up in just a little bit. For those of you, I don't know if any of you were able to watch the Nick Shirley piece. He's an investigative journalist, Nick Shirley, and he has uncovered, well, he hasn't really uncovered it, but he's brought about the information about the fraud that's happening in Minneapolis. With Somalia, with the Somalian immigrants in Minnesota, and that's a huge story. He has over like 100 million views on his page. So I want to get to the interview because it is about a half hour long, But this interview is one of the best interviews I have ever done because Ken Rosato, when I was 18 years old, for those of you who don't know, um, hello, Nani, how are you doing? For those of you who don't know, I am obsessive. I have been literally diagnosed with OCD from a psychiatrist. I have obsessive compulsive disorder, and it manifests itself in several ways. I am obsessive about winning and planning and making sure my family's taken care of, and I'm successful at what I do. When I was 18 years old, I knew I wanted to be like a news anchor and a reporter. So I reached out to those in the business who were successful. And one of those that I reached out to was Ken Rosato. He was a news anchor in New York City. At the time, he was not in New York City, but he was a news anchor in Miami, Florida. And I reached out to him, and he gave me advice. He mentored me. He helped me through not only things in the industry of broadcast news, but my life as well. He's a great man, and I owe him a lot because he has encouraged me. And in the really bad times and the down times, I've been able to pick up a phone and call him, and he's been there for me. So we are kind of taking the same path now in our life, somewhat independent journalism. And I talked to him earlier today, and I want to play the interview, and I want you to watch and listen to this interview because he is going to tell you what it's really like in TV news and what the media is really like. What's going on behind the scenes? What are the news anchors really saying about Trump or Biden, or what are they thinking? How are they using their narratives and their bias in their reporting? Ken Rosato knows. He lived it. Watch this. Hello, everyone. On the screen right now is a mentor, a good friend, Ken Rosato. He is in New York State right now. It is an honor to talk to you, sir.
It is good to be with you as well. And just a quick correction. This is actually New Jersey.
New Jersey.
I abandoned the high tax and spend socialist state of New York for the slightly less socialist state of New Jersey.
I apologize. You were the main morning anchor at WABC in New York.
Correct.
You worked in Miami as a news anchor. You've been across other different markets as well, but a seasoned journalist, and you are so today as well.
Thank you very much, sir. And it's good to be on with you. I've known Dave here, everybody, since he was 3. No, I'm kidding. But it was close, pretty close. You were young.
Yeah, I was 18, 19, reached out looking for mentors and advice. And you've not only given me a career advice, but also with my life and my family. And it's meant the world to me. And I really appreciate it.
I wish I could do as well with my own advice as you did.
You've helped me line up, and you've got there. So when I left the media in 2023, I always wanted to be a news reporter, a news anchor. My dreams came true. I had the chance to go to Detroit, even Los Angeles, but I turned those down because family started being really important to me. So I moved back to Flint, Michigan, became a news anchor in 2023 during COVID. Everything went to hell for everybody, and then it just made me realize the media is not what it was when I first started out. I'm 50 years old now, and when I was 21, 22 years old, it was different, and I don't miss it whatsoever. Now, you've been gone from WABC. How long have you been gone now?
2.5 years.
So 2.5 years. Are you missing? I miss things like the breaking news, being in your blood and being in the newsroom and stuff, but I don't miss it at all. How about you?
No, actually, you know what? Maybe because I'm still in the business, just a little shifted. I'm on WOR radio in New York, which is a giant historic. In fact, it's one of the first commercial radio stations on the planet, 50,000 watt AM news talk station. And I get to I'm the only fill-in guy for all the hosts. So I come in and do all the different shows on that station. And the nice thing is I actually get to spew opinion. That's what I get paid to do, to actually be the old curmudgeon. Let me tell you, back in my day, we didn't have these guys who thought they were women. I get to do that. And then I'm on a morning show Monday through Friday called On New Jersey Mornings, which is let's put it this way. I was approached by the owners of this channel, this station, ONNJ.com, a streaming channel in New Jersey, which covers, I mean, you can get it anywhere, but it focuses on New Jersey. I was approached by the owners, and they said, if you could construct your fantasy job, what would it be? And I said, well, I would like to still be in the news business and be relevant that way. I'd like a morning show because we were the number one local morning newscast in the United States for 20 years in every demographic. When I was at WABC TV, I was there 20 years in the mornings, literally 12 to 20-year-olds, 18 to 34-year-olds, 25 to 54-year-olds, women, men, slugs, worms.
You were number one in the country. You were in the entire United States.
Right.
You were you were the guy.
And it's because of our morning show's ratings that Good Morning America was solidly number one. They went number one because New York comprises 9% of the population of the United States, the New York market. So if you're number one in New York, then the national shows rely on that rating to get their number one status as well.
Huh.
This, not for anything, but after I left, the morning show went to number two, and Good Morning America went to number two.
Wow.
That's how much impact New York has on the national rating.
I didn't think of it that way, but it makes total sense.
Yeah, New York, LA, Chicago together comprise like 15 to 20% of the national audience for these network shows. Yeah. So if you lose any one of those, you're in big trouble.
Wow. So you said you were literally allowed to craft your dream position of how you wanted what you're doing now?
Yes. And I said to them, I said, I think it's okay to do news as long as you are clear where you stand with your opinion. See, I think the problem you and I both had, and I don't mean to speak for you, is that mainstream media had a far left slant, but they thought or pretended that they were mainstream and they were middle of the road, but they weren't. They're full of crap. They are leftist activists who go to J school. They go in liberals, they come out communists, and they get into newsrooms and they feel that it's their job to change the world, to make it leftist like them. And if anybody says otherwise, I invite you to come into any newsroom in America. I'll show you. Every one of these kids. I remember at WABC, and I'm not speaking out of school here. They can't deny it. I remember I used to give tours. I was the only person who used to love to give tours. And I used to, for charity, we would auction off a tour. I'd go to Catholic Charities or whatever. The highest bidder would get a tour, and you could bring 20 people. We'd bring them through the station. And I remember on several occasions, I brought them through the newsroom, and people had at their desks Obama for president stickers. And ABC thought that was just fine. I mean, technically it was in violation of the rules, but nobody there said anything because it was considered, that was part of the narrative. It's like, anyone who's against Obama, you gotta be a racist, or you gotta be
Wow.
So I was
real quick. Sure. What was it like the first time when Trump won, when you walked into the newsroom that morning? I don't know if you were working the next day.
I did.
What was the feeling, the mood like?
Assistant news director comes over to me, and mind you, I never expressed what my political opinions were. And here, I'm an openly gay guy. I never talked about it on the air because I don't think it's anyone's business. Nobody's tuning in to see the gay or the straight guy. They just want the news. It's nobody's business. But so I think the thought originally was, he's gay, ergo he must be liberal. Okay, because that is the thought. So I was accepted in the circles. And I think if they knew that I wasn't liberal when I was offered the anchor job, I would have never gotten the anchor job.
Wow.
I'm convinced of that. So once I got the anchor job, and they noticed that I would say things like, hey, we need to balance this story out a little bit. This is very, very far left. I never said we need to do something pro-Trump. I just said we have 6 anti-Trump stories, 4 pro-Obama or 4 pro-Hillary Clinton stories. This is back in 2015. Yeah. We just need to balance it out. That's all. Just one story to balance it.
Yeah.
That's when they immediately suspected, ding, 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 ding. This guy is probably a conservative, though I never said so. And if you watch, I used to get Facebook messages from viewers who used to say, you're a liberal, you're a conservative. I prided myself on the fact that they didn't know what I was, because
same here.
You'd go out of your way to make sure they didn't think you were what you are. So I would go bend over backwards to give the liberal point of view so that it didn't look like I was a conservative trying to spew my point of view.
Absolutely. I've had people on both sides threaten to kill me on the left and the right, and then I figured I'm doing my job then if they
Right.
both want to go after me.
Exactly. But yet I can tell, it's funny, the main anchor at night at the time, he's now retired at WABC TV, was a guy named Bill Ritter. Super nice guy, handsome, great voice, excellent, excellent anchor. But he was as far to the left as Mao Zedong. And I don't think, I mean, saying this, he would not be offended. He is. He's proud of the fact. He would write narratives. He would write literally dissertations on Facebook, bashing Trump, bashing Republicans, and it was allowed to be out there. And I
Wow.
remember the few times one or two people said something about it, they were told to mind their business. He would just go off because I think the attitude was New York is 5-1 Democrat, so let it be. No, the problem is once you get out of the 5 boroughs of New York, you're still in the TV market. Westchester County, Nassau, and Suffolk counties on Long Island, about 5 or 6 counties of New Jersey that are very Republican. And you are not serving their public interest if you only talk about one side. So, God forbid. I remember my Facebook page got hacked. It was at the time that Trump was talking about building the wall originally. He was still running for president. Okay. And I remember Mark Zuckerberg had bought in Seattle, he bought a house. And in order to make his house secure for his wife and future child at the time, he bought 9 houses around,
Yep.
knocked them all down, and built this ginormous compound. He built a wall. Somebody hacked into my Facebook. Now, here's the proof that somebody hacked into my Facebook. While I was on the air at 6 a.m. on this weekday morning, somebody with a remote access to the account from Newark, New Jersey, I was in Midtown Manhattan. They accessed Facebook, got in, and changed and posted stuff. So thank God my IT guy at ABC was able to go back and see where it came from. So I had evidence. It wasn't
Wow.
from me. It was coming from Newark, New Jersey. I was on the air. I have proof. Otherwise, my news director at the time was threatening to fire me because the Post said, it wasn't even anything nasty, or all it said was, "Dear Mr. Zuckerberg, you claim to be that building a wall is xenophobic and that it's anti-Hispanic and it's not in the American spirit. Yet you, to protect your wife and future kid, they didn't have a child yet. Yeah. You bought this house. You knocked down all the houses around it and built a wall for yourself. So why is it that a wall is good for you and not good for the rest of us?"
And you would have been if
If
wow.
it was actually me, I would have been fired. Now, I didn't post that. I stayed. If you go to my Facebook or Instagram, any of my social media prior to when I left ABC, you will not find one word of anything political.
Not at all. No.
I mean, I was even careful about like putting the American flag up on Veterans Day because right away the leftists in New York think, "Oh, he's a right winger." It was crazy. You shouldn't have to be ashamed of putting up the American flag on the 4th of July or Veterans Day. But that's the way the leftists in New York are.
And I've seen that in newsrooms. Like, for example, we had people in my newsroom with little Governor Whitmer figurines on their desk. And you could tell when the interviews happened, when they would interview these people, that it was not a, quote, tough interview. And that's why I think they knew I leaned conservatively. The viewers didn't. But for example, Governor Whitmer, I was not ever chosen to do interviews because I would be a little more tougher. But
your job. In other words, you would do your job. You were the 5th estate. That is your job. There's the 4th estate, which is print media. The 5th estate is broadcast media. Your job is to hold them up. You have a constitutional duty to do that.
No matter who they are, Republican, right. Democrat.
100%.
I've criticized President Trump many times, and I take a lot of heat for it. But I think people are looking for, they always say it, but the news, the information, and the media has failed. The ratings continue to drop. I don't know about New York City, but I know CNN, Fox is doing well, but not like they used to. The free market, I guess, is working because the viewers are deciding that they're fed up with it, right? I mean, the ratings are going down nationwide in broadcast television.
Absolutely. People are looking at their phones. They're not, they're looking at their select media. They have their favorite people that they check out, whether it be a TikToker or a Dave Bondi, a perfect example. And you have quite a following. I'm so proud of you and the following that you built. You have subscribers. I
Yeah.
mean, it's one thing for people to say, "Oh, this guy's one of my favorites. I check out his stuff." It's another thing for people to take the time and put in credit card info and actually subscribe for specific information. They're actually paying for something above and beyond. That says something very big about you.
I
And
appreciate that, and I put everything out for free mostly, and they're still
right,
they sign up, and I guess the question is there a little danger too, or do people just need to be honest? Like myself, for example, I will tell people I do obviously lean more conservative. If Trump does something stupid, I'll call him out on it, but I put it out there. Yes, I have a conservative, maybe not slant, but somewhat of a slant. So you're like Sean Hannity when he's on the air at night, you know where he's coming from.
right.
So is that the difference? Like when you're watching CNN during the day, it seems like there is editorial opinion slipped in every other minute, but they're masquerading it as news.
That's exactly it. That's
Is
the
that
problem.
okay?
See, in like the show that we crafted here, and this is the background here is on New Jersey Mornings with Ken Rosato. Little
Okay.
plug, shameless plug. Um,
I'll put a
so
link. I'll put a link to your show in the
thank
comments
you.
form.
I appreciate that,
Yep.
sir. So the thing with us, we do news, traffic, weather. We have a live meteorologist. I actually read the news. We do the real news headlines,
Mhm.
but I tell you in advance, I'm injecting opinion. So I do the story, then I add Ken's line at the end. But first you're going to get the story.
Yeah.
Then you're going to see my little interjection. And then we open, I'm looking down for the controller for the phones. It's just a tablet.
Okay.
We have a phone number, 888-658-0234. Anyone from anywhere can call in and you could tell me I'm full of crap. You don't know what you're talking about, or I agree with you,
Do you
or
take those calls? Do you
all
take
the
the?
time. In fact, if you call, you get, no matter what we're doing, we will stop and put you on the air and you could say, and I just sit back and let you say it. You could tear me to shreds. You could tell me I don't know what I'm talking about. But then once you're done talking, we will have a dialogue and a calm one. I'm not going to yell at you. I'm not going to call you names because I invite everybody on to say what they want. What's funny is 90% of the time it's people who agree. And I say, I love you calling and saying you agree, but I really want people who disagree, who find fault, because I learn from you. If there is something you disagree with, I want to know why, because guess what? I could be wrong. And that's what America was about. Dialogue. It's not about I'm right, you're wrong, that's it, case closed, kill that person, dispatch that person. That is not what it's supposed to be.
So the public, people are smart. They're watching CNN. Some, I'll admit it right now. I have friends who are glued to CNN and they're stuck. They can't see through it. But it seems like a lot of people are seeing through it as all opinion. They're trying to tell people how to think. That's not what they want. And obviously, the free market is moving towards people like me, you, and I'll bring up in a minute Nick Shirley, a 23-year-old independent
He's
journalist
amazing.
getting millions of views in the media. I could see this coming, and that's why I planned my trek to leave. I was telling my station it's not working. Something's not working. And they're I mean, some of them they're sticking to their models still. When have they lost their chance to
Yeah.
capture that?
MS Now is absolutely a sinking ship. I know that, in fact, the guy who's in charge of MS Now is my former boss at Channel 7 in New York. He was a loser then. He's a loser now. He was fired from CNN. He was fired from Channel 7, although he'll say he left of his own accord. I'm sorry. And now I give him 6 to 12 months at MS Now. And he'll be gone from there too. He is a far leftist with a lisp. And he thinks he knows it all. He's not. For those who say, wait a minute, I know the guy with the list who ran Channel 7. No, he's not that guy. That was Kenny Plotnick. That's not the one I'm talking about. Kenny Plotnick is one of the most brilliant news directors in the business. He was great. He's retired. He's great. This is another guy with a lisp. I don't know why that brings him to Channel 7 in New York. But this guy is to say he's a moron would be offensive to morons. Okay, and I have no problem saying that. I'll debate him in a public forum anytime he wants. Just an elitist pig who he and his wife went down to the Cayman Islands during this. He's a liberal who, while the rest of America had to suffer, he and his wife flew down to their private estate home in the Cayman Islands during COVID, so they could live out tough it out down there.
Sounds like our governor. Yeah,
exactly. Same attitude. So he is now in charge of MS Now. And MS Now, since he's in charge, they've not done nothing but toilet. They took already bad numbers and they're in the toilet.
For those who don't know, that was MSNBC. Did NBC even have enough of them, or why did that end?
Yeah. So here's the problem. They found in all their research that MSNBC was damaging the NBC brand.
Okay.
That NBC News lost any and all credibility even though we know they were left wing, they tried to still maintain a level of centrist whatever. And how can you do that if the same people who are on NBC News are on MSNBC giving opinion? How can you say you're centrist on NBC News? So they had to sever ties. So technically, they still have controlling interest, I believe, over the company. It's a separate company that runs MS Now, but there are other companies now co-owning it, and it's run independently. They're in it. They're not in the building. They're not in 30 Rock. They're run as a totally different institution, and they don't share people, et cetera. It's all new faces and whatnot.
Okay. Well, and I don't know for yourself, but I tell people, independent journalists, I take criticism because I say I'm more conservative. I do work at the Mackinac Center in Michigan, which is a think tank. I help do their social media. But I say when it comes to journalism and news, for example, we had a mass shooting in Michigan at a church, and I was a journalist. I was giving just the news, and that's it. When I say independent, I don't have a corporate overlord or a corporate ownership. So you're saying if the companies, MSNBC, CNN, just flat out admit it, like some people say Newsmax is, well, people know what Newsmax is. They're more of a buy, but going in, what they're about.
Right. Exactly. And here's the way, not to say that our model is a great model, but how about trying this? How about doing straight middle of the road news on a story?
Yep.
And then at the end saying, now here's my take on it, and adding my take. You're defining it as this isn't the news.
Yeah.
This is my take on it based on my experience.
Yep.
So for instance, in New Jersey, the attorney general is this, to call him a socialist would be, other socialists would be conservative in comparison. This guy is as far left as they come. His name is Matt Platkin. He is an arch leftist, Trump despiser. Okay. And anytime we do a story, I will do the story on him. I will do the story about Matt Platkin. Then I'll say, now my take. I said, Matt Platkin has never sided with the right on X, Y, and Z. And then I'll bring up 3 examples of stories in the last year where he has attacked the right viciously and still lost, but yet he keeps going after them. And so, but I tell you that it's my opinion, and based on my experience as 45 years in the business, this is what I've encountered. I know people like Matt Platkin.
There he is. I put him up on the screen.
Thank you, sir. There's Matt Platkin. He's a weasel. He's a weasel. Okay. Actually, I've now offended weasels by saying that. But he is this aggressive little mealy. He is like the Jack Smith of New Jersey. And all he does is attack the right.
But when you cover a story with him, you'll give the news, and then you'll say, okay, now it's time for Ken to tell you what I think. And by the way, if you're out there and you love him, call in.
If you disagree with me, call up right now and tell us. In fact, we could put you on video or audio only.
Wow.
And punch you up, and we will stop everything. We'll stop the forecast with meteorologist Mike Pavetta, who is an AMS SEAL meteorologist and a professor of meteorology. We will stop the forecast and put you on at the front of the line. That's how serious we are.
I have former coworkers who hate me now. Most of the people I worked with hate me. They're trying to get me thrown off social platforms. But I don't care that they're more Democrat or even left wing. I was still friends with them. Sure. Where does that hate come from? It's like I'm like one of the meteorologists I used to work with. I've heard recently, he's telling people that I've lost my mind, that I've gone off the edge. What is it with that just makes them so furious?
Dan Bongino. Dan Bongino said it best when he defined the difference between Republicans and Democrats.
Okay.
He says that Republicans think Democrats are good people with bad ideas,
Okay.
right? I think you and I agree on that. Democrats think Republicans are bad people.
Yeah, that's
And
not right. I mean,
you know where a lot of this comes from? And this is, I'm painting with a very broad brush here now.
okay.
Generally speaking, Democrats tend to be less religious, tend to accept religion less in their lives. So if you don't have a God to humble you, a God who is above everything and we all fall underneath, then all the rules about loving one another, loving the Lord your God, etc. We say, no, that's essential. You and I start our days believing that. Whether we are on our knees or saying it in our minds, we know that God exists. God created us. God's in charge of the universe. I don't want to get too preachy here. It's
Oh, that's
Sunday.
fine. Yeah.
And that we are under God no matter what. And that someday we'll have to face God face to face and explain ourselves. And if we treated somebody like crap, then we're going to have to explain why. Because God is going to say, you know what? I made him or her. How dare you treat that person like crap? Why did you do that? And I'm going to have to look God in the eye and say, yeah, you're right.
It's just shocking. I'm like, move on with your life. I mean, it's just.
But they don't believe in God the way you and I believe in God. And if you don't accept and believe in a God either at all or to the level that the other side does, then you look at yourself as the supreme being, arrogant and in control of everything. And you look at anyone else's opinion as inconsequential. So therefore, the other person doesn't even have a seat at the table. You're not even worthy of being in my presence.
But you probably have friends, I do, that are hard to the left that I'm still friends with.
Very few.
Yeah, there's not many.
Right.
But there's few. And those few that are there are really good people.
Oh, I agree. There's a guy I have on my show who is a former New Jersey State Assemblyman. This guy is hardcore left. He's an anti-Trumper. Yet because he's an attorney, he's well thought. He quotes the company line for the Democrats all the time, being a former Democrat, liberal state assemblyman, John Wisniewski. But yet we have a level of respect for each other that's up here.
He doesn't think you're the devil.
Right. And guess what? John is a good Catholic man who believes in God. There's the difference. Okay. So I think because of that, he's willing to have the debate. And then later, hey, Ken, you want to go to lunch next week? Absolutely. That's the relationship John and I have. Awesome. And because he genuinely, by the way, there have been many debates that got almost to the level of screaming. And then he'll say something and I'll go, you know what? That's an excellent point.
Yeah.
That's what it's supposed to be about. Because you shouldn't be shouting at each other. Get your point across. And then I guarantee in every good debate, you will learn one thing. If it's a good debate and a worthy debater, then you'll come away from that debate learning something that you didn't know before, but you have to listen.
I'm continuing to evolve and learn so much. Before I let you know, it's busy. One more question. I'm going to show you something on the screen here. And sure. This is, a lot of people have been following this Nick Shirley person. I didn't know a lot about him. Right here, he did a video about but digging into the fraud in Minnesota with the Somalian. He's had 53, it's now up to 70 million views on his video.
Yep.
The ratings on the left side of the screen are Fox, CNN. They don't come anywhere near. Is this the future of what does this say for journalism? And I watched his entire piece. This is an influencer. He actually did work on this story. What does this say? What message should this give to the legacy media?
Let me say this. Am I allowed to say BALLS on your channel?
Yeah, you can say whatever you want.
Nick has more balls than every male macho man in TV news in America. He goes right to the fire and in the face. This is confrontational journalism like it used to be in the 70s and 80s. Remember when John Stossel and those guys used to, even Geraldo, they used to actually have a pair of balls and used to go after people and say, hey, and by the way, he doesn't call them names. He doesn't even accuse. He asks questions.
He's on the ground and he
holds up a piece of paper and he says, sir, right here. Where's this $2.5 million? Where is it? How come there's supposed to be 120 kids here and there's no kids? So for people who don't realize what Nick Shirley did was in Somalia, it should be Somalia,
Yeah.
in Minneapolis, St. Paul, there's a huge Somali community that 45 years ago came over as refugees temporarily because there was a civil war in Somalia. So we open our hearts and open our countries on a temporary basis. They were supposed to go home when the Civil War ended. Well, the Civil War is still going on. P.S. We're giving their government hundreds of millions of dollars of aid, and yet their people are coming here and we take them in. Well, then stop giving, either stop giving the government aid until they get their asses together, or stop taking the people over here. You can't do both, because then what we're doing is basically propping up a false government. So these people were only supposed to be here temporarily. Now they've already raised multiple generations in the United States. But a lot of people don't realize, because they are refugees, technically the children born here are not U.S. citizens. A lot of people don't realize that. But these people they're a closed community. They don't talk outside. They do everything internally. They had a couple of smart people who started applying for grants with the government. And because of the white liberals who feel guilty, oh, the poor black refugees from Somalia, let them have whatever they want. And any grant they requested, they were given. I mean, literally, it looked like stuff was filled out, applications filled out with crayon on the back of a cocktail napkin. They get $100 million.
Yeah.
And yet there's nothing to show for it. They were supposed to have daycare centers, nothing.
And
now,
Nick, all he did was walk in, literally, where's the kids? Where's the kids?
These people are setting up daycare centers in industrial parts of town where you couldn't have a daycare center, because who's going to drive their kid 20 miles to the bad side of town to drop them off? There's no place, no playground to play, and there's nobody inside. They have the hallways done up with little posters, so if you look in through the window, you could see what looks like a little kiddie poster, but there are no children. Where are the kids?
This shows right here, people want real content. Content is king. When I did something like he did, when I would try to be aggressive, I was disciplined for it. I was told, I remember a news director, no, do not be aggressive. You're being rude. You're insulting the governor. You're insulting Pfizer. And I was disciplined in my last 3 years of working for it. When I first started, my first news director, it was encouraged to get out there, go in the mayor's office. Why did you sign this document? I was actually disciplined for doing that.
Because it's this right now, because advertising revenue has dried up so much in mainstream media. I mean, it used to be, the old saying was, if you had a TV station or a radio station, you had a printing press for money. That's what it was called. Today, no. Now that you have 10,000 alternatives on streaming, you have print, you have et cetera. People don't have to go to the ABC, NBC, CBS anymore. No, they can go to any one of these alternatives. I mean, who'd have heard, 5 years ago, if you said, we're going to do a streaming TV channel, it would have been, what's a streaming TV channel? Guess what? Now that people are not watching over the air and they've cut the cord on cable, there is no difference in accessing NBC, ABC, CBS on a stream or accessing on New Jersey on a stream. We are now co-equal. See, back in the 70s, you had 3 or 4 channels per market, because the FCC had, and a few radio stations and 1 or 2 newspapers, and that was it. So they controlled it. Today, they don't control it anymore, and they're going apoplectic in mainstream media because they know that they no longer have the control they once had.
And they have to be scared out of their minds looking at this one 23-year-old, 53 million views. I mean, they're going to try to ignore it, and they have in Minnesota. But like I said,
to their own peril. They ignore it to their own peril.
Yeah, I remember trying to go tough with Governor Snyder, who was a Republican, and Governor Whitmer, a Democrat, and I was told you need to lay off because we don't want to lose the connection to the governor's office. And you probably on WABC, but even celebrities, Cheryl Atkinson, when I interviewed her once, she told me she was told to stand down on something with President Obama because the network didn't want to lose that friendliness with the president.
Meanwhile, those of us in streaming couldn't give a flying crap. So I don't care if I lose you, schmooze you. You could try to shut me down, do whatever. I'll pop up on another channel. Go ahead, do what you want to do. There's the difference. Today, it's different. It's the wild, wild west. And these people don't have the control they thought they had or that they once had. It's all different. But the only thing that I'm a little concerned about is security and safety. This Nick better be careful, because look at what happened to Charlie. There are crazy people out there. And I think that is part of the problem. Now we have to watch out, because there are lunatics who have been all ginned up by the folks on the left. And the left they're the ones of violence. They love to say either a comparative equality, that, there are crazies on the left and the right. No, I'm sorry. There are no right-wing religious people who've been shooting up people on the left. It's almost every case of a shooting. It's either a kid who's on mental drugs. If you look at every school shooting in the last 50 years, every one of the kids who did the shooting, everyone to the kid, was on a mind-altering drug of some sort that was prescribed by their doctor. All right, that's number one. Number two, of the last few years, almost every school shooting, quietly, we don't talk about it, always done by somebody trans. With all the medications they're on, et cetera, and all the mental confusion, and society, one part of society telling you it's perfectly fine to be 15 years old and want to cut off your penis, and the rest of society saying, no, let's not do that. Let's wait until you're an adult, and then you can think about it after you've had therapy. These kids are now more confused than ever.
And your point is, like Nick Shirley, he probably has to have higher security now. I know he did for that story, because all it takes is one person. I've had threats. My wife tells me, and at times, and tone things down, but it doesn't matter. I can post a picture of a sunset and it will set someone off.
Yeah. Fortunately, where I live in New Jersey, there are enough people, shall we say, who know The Sopranos, that I feel pretty safe here. Let's just put it that way. There's a benefit to having the name Rosato in New Jersey.
Wow. What is the best place to put out what platform? Your link to your show? What would you like me to put out? And I'll put it out there.
Yeah, onnj.com. And the show is on live Eastern time. We're live Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. And then it's a rebroadcast 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. But we're on hiatus right now. We have what we call Frankenstein shows. Frankenstein shows meaning they're pieced together from other shows until the 5th. But on the 5th, we're back live again. In the meantime, if you want to hear me, I'm on 710 WOR radio doing the morning show again, Eastern time, 6 to 10 a.m. Monday through Friday. I'll be on all this week on 7:10 a.m. and you could call us up 800 forgetting the number 800-321-0710 800-321-0710. It's part of iHeartRadio. You could also download the iHeartRadio app, go to WOR. You could leave what's called a talkback. We just press a little button and you could say, hey Rosato, you don't know what you're talking about, or hey Rosato, you're pretty good. We get calls from all over the country, even though it's a New York station, because of the era of internet streaming and the iHeartRadio app. And they own 850 stations around the country, including where you are in Michigan. iHeartRadio. So being on the air at a talk station in New York, my calls are California, Florida, Arizona. It's like doing a national talk show. Wow. It's amazing. Really, because the New Yorkers aren't into the conservative talk, so I get more viewers and callers from outside.
True, and a lot of people who moved from New York leaving the state to go elsewhere.
You're right, absolutely.
I'll put the link in the comments below. I really appreciate you taking the time. I think it opens up a lot of the inside to the mainstream legacy media, and I'm happy. Are you happy with everything, how it's going?
Can't complain. Look, do I make as much as I did before? No way. No way. Am I happier than ever before? 100%. My studio is in my home. Yeah, I get to, my commute is down, there you go. My commute is walk down a flight of steps. And when we have a second home in Florida, have another studio there. So I go down, I don't have to ask the boss, can I take vacation next week? It doesn't matter. I could take vacation next week.
Yeah, and the $1 million anchors, that's probably a thing of the past. If there is any, there's going to be no new $1 million contracts probably for news anchors.
Not for local anchors, at least. And look at even CBS Network. CBS Network, I mean, is down to their new guy who in fact I can't even remember his name. Procopol.
Yeah, I know. Blonde.
Nice guy, handsome man, nice voice. But you know that if they're paying him a couple of million, that's to be a network anchor. And I have no inside information here. I'm just saying that's probably what it is today for the network. Local, I think the highest paid local anchors in America are making maybe at most $400,000 to $500,000 a year. And
even in New York City.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they're not making more than that. Wow. That's it. There's no need. There's no audience for it. There's no advertising to justify it.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, I appreciate it, sir. Thank you so much. And I will I'd like to pay an in-person visit to do a show with you in person in the near future.
We could do that. We got the technology.
Thank you, sir. Wow, there you go. Great interview with Ken Rosato, former news anchor at WABC TV in New York City, the number one market in the country. He was the number one anchor in New York City for a long, long time, and now he is dishing the dirt. Great guy. He is a great friend, someone who has helped me in my career in many, many ways, and just an example of what is really, going on behind the scenes in local TV news. And it's honestly really, really sad at what's happening with local news. But good news, people like Ken, myself, we are doing what it takes to bring you the real news, the real information. And I really appreciate that, everybody. Okay, well, I got to get going. We are preparing for a major winter storm here in Michigan. Not necessarily the snow, but the wind. We could be getting up to 60-mile-per-hour winds throughout the entire day tomorrow. And I want to, prep the house, get things ready. So hopefully we'll batten down the hatches, everybody. If you are getting severe weather where you live, I hope all of you can stay safe. Happy New Year to all of you. We will be off the air this week. I will not have a show on Thursday. I will not have a show on Sunday. What we are doing is we are redoing our studio down here, and we are retooling. We're going to have a brand new studio when you see me next on the air. I will post links. I just sent out a newsletter, Lady is Shy, and there should be links of Ken Rosato on there as well. I will put them. I'll put them here in the chat. I'll leave the chat open, and I'll put some links here for him so you can follow him. Going to talk to you later, everyone. Have a great day. I will see you next on January 5th. That's when we are really going to ramp things up. Thank you so much for being here, everyone. Happy New Year to all of you. Prayers, and please be safe.